Hey guys, welcome back to my homeschool channel. Today I wanted to have sort of a heart-to-heart about one of the most common questions asked to homeschool moms, and that is the question, what about socialization? Are your kids socialized enough as homeschoolers? If you've been a homeschool mom for a while, you know that that question is actually pretty absurd and just maybe a little ignorant to the ways of like how homeschooling can actually look. And it can be a little tiring to answer that question all of the time. Sometimes you really want to fight the urge to roll your eyes or sigh or just walk away. But maybe you're new to homeschooling, or maybe you're considering homeschooling, and maybe this is a question that you are genuinely concerned about, and maybe it's something that's holding you back from homeschooling. And so I wanted to talk about it today in hopes that it can encourage you and help you see that it's either a non-issue in most homeschool families, or if you're finding that it is kind of an issue for you guys, it's a very easy fix and something that you can easily address in your own family, because I don't want this age-old question and common concern to hold you back from enjoying your homeschool or from feeling the freedom to go ahead and homeschool your kids. One thing I always think is so funny is that whenever we are asked this question, we are literally out socializing. We are in a social setting. My kids are usually running around with other kids playing, and I'm talking to another adult or parent one-on-one, and they're asking me in that moment of all my kids socializing and me socializing if we get enough socialization. But I don't hold it against them, because I know that it's just like the thing to say. It's just the common concern that everyone always has about homeschooling. And so when they learn that you're a homeschool family, that's the first thing that pops into their mind. And so it's usually the first question they ask. So I'd like to know, before you finish watching this video, leave a comment below and let me know, one, have you been asked this question? And two, what is your go-to response when you ask this question? Drop some ideas in the comments below for some other homeschool mamas to read, because it's always helpful to just kind of have a pre-planned, nice and compact answer. We don't always have to go into a big spiel to somebody else. So pause this video, share what you usually say, and then come back and let's talk some more. Okay, so here are my 4 reasons for why I don't think that you need to worry about your kids getting enough socialization if you choose to homeschool them. I'm not going to come at you with a bunch of research and statistics today. It's really just my own personal opinion as a homeschool graduate myself and a homeschool mom to 4 kids. And I'm not necessarily here to argue, public school versus homeschool. Although some of my points might sound like that, I really am just trying to boost homeschooling in light of socialization and ease your worry about socialization if you're choosing to homeschool. So my number one reason is that when most families choose to homeschool, it's because they want to expand their child's world beyond the 4 walls of the classroom. Homeschooling gives you the opportunity to get out into the real world multiple times a week, however often you want to do that. And with each of those interactions in the real world, you're providing opportunities for your kids to socialize. So every trip to the zoo, to the aquarium, to the library, they are learning social skills in each of those settings. A bonus to this is they're not just socializing with kids, but they're learning how to interact with adults, to look adults in the eye, to answer questions, to ask questions, to learn common courtesies that are needed in society, like holding doors open for people, throwing away their trash in public. Lots of different opportunities to gain social skills, real life skills, common courtesies, and respect for the world around them and the people around them. I really think that kids largely learn their social skills from their parents, no matter what school setting they're in, whether they're public school or at home. And it just so happens that being home with your parent, you have a lot more time with your kids to teach them these social skills and these manners. I think it really is the parents that are teaching how to interact with an adult, how to address an adult or answer an adult, how to order food at a restaurant, how to talk on the phone. All of those little like social and life skills are really coming from parents. And so no shade to public school parents, because I know that they are also putting in the work and doing these things with their kids. So if you have this question of socialization with homeschoolers, consider that homeschool parents are also taking these same steps with their kids, and they're actually getting a lot more practice in with their kids, because they're doing it a lot more often because they are with their kids for many more hours. The second reason I'm going to say socialization isn't an issue is because personally, I think that socialization isn't all it's cracked up to be. Obviously, it is great for our kids to have friends and to have friends their age and to experience all the cool and fun things that come along with childhood friendships. But we also should be teaching them to value their relationships in the home and to value their sibling relationships and to really cultivate and build up the parent-child relationship, because it is important that our children value the opinions of us, their parents, more than the opinions of their friends. Their peers can have negative attitudes that we would not like to see in our own children. They can have opposing beliefs to our own family's core beliefs, and they can introduce a lot of peer pressure situations and a lot of bullying situations that our kids, when they're homeschooled, they're either never introduced to that, rarely introduced to that, or not introduced to that until much later when they are better equipped to handle that. There are a lot of kids in the public school system or even private school system right now that struggle with being bullied and that struggle with social anxieties, that really, when we choose to homeschool our kids and keep them home, we get to protect them from that. Eventually, as our kids grow, of course, we will give them more freedoms to befriend all sorts of different people. This isn't necessarily about not letting our kids be friends with people who aren't like us. But I do think it's so important when they're little to protect their childhood innocence, protect them from a lot of ugliness that goes on in the world and that our kids get introduced to at a young age through peer interactions in a school setting. I don't want my young girls to worry about whether so and so is their best friend, or they didn't get invited to her party, or she got invited to her birthday party but not me. I have seen that firsthand in some of our friends that do go to school and some family members that do go to school. And I don't want that for my girls. I want them to be able to be confident in who they are, to be confident in their friendships. And I think having a limited peer group and a small friend group actually provides them valuable friendships instead of having that broad social group that they have in their classroom where friendships can be unsure and ever changing. And that's heartbreaking for a first grader or a second grader. That's something that I don't want them to have to experience until much later in life. And while I haven't experienced this with my own children yet because they are young, I can speak into this as a homeschooler myself. When I was a teenager and when I was in high school, I had a great relationship with my sisters. I had a great relationship with my parents. I didn't struggle with anxieties or depression. The small friend group that I have didn't have any unwanted teen pregnancies. I didn't hear stories, anybody in my close friend group experiencing suicide. I'm not saying that that never happens in homeschool families or in homeschool kids, but I am saying that when you keep your friend group smaller and your social circle smaller, those negative social effects from peer pressure are a lot less likely. The third reason I have for why you shouldn't be worried about socialization being an issue in your homeschool family is because being grouped together in a classroom of same-aged peers should not be the gold standard for learning how to socialize. The very first way your kids are learning how to socialize is within their own family group inside your home with their siblings that are older and younger than them. My kids are socializing with each other all day long. They're playing with each other. They're helping to care for one another. They're part of our family economy in our home, contributing to the needs of our household and the way things run in our house. And so that is the very basis of your kids' ability to socialize. And so that should be where you start your training. And if you see any deficits in your kids' ability to share their toys or to communicate effectively with their siblings, you can start there. And from there, it will branch out to their friends and their peers. And also, as homeschoolers, we have the opportunity to gather in groups of other homeschool families that provide a wide range of age groups. We are lucky enough to be surrounded by quite a few homeschool families in our church, and we gather with them often. And my kids are kind of right in the middle or towards the younger end. And so they're getting the opportunity to gather with peers that are their age, but also to interact with kids that are a little older than them, a few years older, interact with teenagers and interact with adults whenever we gather together. And I actually think that this provides your kids with a much broader range of social skills to be able to interact with varying ages of people than when they are just surrounded by kids that are their same age that have the same maturity level that they have. When our kids can observe other kids that are a little bit older than them, and they can observe the way that they handle situations or how they're going about resolving conflict, they can maybe learn a lot more than how a peer might be handling a problem. And also it gives your children an opportunity to teach younger kids and be an example, which is a huge life skill. And people that know how to lead with kindness and confidence is something that's desperately needed in our society. And my final reason that you don't have to be worried about your homeschool kids being socialized is that you actually have more time for your kids to socialize as a homeschool family than kids that are involved in traditional public school or private school settings. Your kids are not confined to one social setting. Every day is open for you to have your kids interact in a social setting in whichever way you think would most benefit them, whether it's sports, clubs, art classes, field trips, homeschool co-ops or play dates, even story times at the libraries. Whatever benefits your family most, you have the freedom to do that as many days a week as you want as a homeschool family, for as many hours as you want as a homeschool family. You also have time to visit family, to visit grandparents, to visit nursing homes, to visit fire stations. I mean, the opportunities to provide your kids with social interactions are endless. And I actually think that that maybe is the number one rebuttal to this socialization question, that we have the ability to provide our kids with multiple interactions across various social settings, meeting various types of people over a broad spectrum of ages throughout their whole childhood. They will not be confined to just one setting with one group of peers for 9 months out of the year. Really and truly, at the basis of homeschooling, it is about freedom, and homeschoolers have the freedom to socialize in so many different ways. So point to the positives when you are asked this question about socialization, or if you're in a conversation about socialization. Definitely try to point out all of the freedoms that we have to provide our kids with all of these different social setting opportunities. And I think that that can really help to shine a light on why this is really a non-issue for a lot of homeschool families. Now, of course, there's always the chance that you know a homeschool family that didn't provide their kids with opportunities to socialize or teach them proper social skills. And unfortunately, I know that that can be a reality, but it's not the norm for most homeschool families. If you know a family that's like that, they are not doing their kids justice, and that is neglectful of them. But that's not a true representation of most homeschool families and what most homeschool parents are trying to provide for their kids. If you agree with all of these points, but you're still unsure and you're still worried about it and you still need some ideas for how to socialize your homeschool kids, there are some easy ways that you can make sure that your kids are getting to interact with peers their age or around their age. And that's, you can look into homeschool co-ops in your area. You can look into joining a nature group in your area. If your family's interested in sports, lots of areas have homeschool sports programs, but also places like your local rec center or YMCA or a program called Upward, if that's in your area. Those are all great places to look at for getting your kids involved in sports programs. You can sign your kids up for things like gymnastics or dance class. And a lot of times if you sign up for classes that are taking place during the day, you might end up meeting some other homeschool families that are there too and get to build some relationships with them as well. For us, church is a number one place that we get to meet with friends and build relationships with people. And also we have a lot of family in our area. So we get to see aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, which all counts as socialization. And then one last thought, I do think that it can be beneficial to practice socialization skills at home with your kids. So my kids and I will often role play how to greet an adult. We'll role play how to answer a question. We practice common courtesies, because the more that you practice these things with your kids in your own home, then the easier it is for your kids to exhibit these behaviors out in the real world. I love using some character cards from, right now we are using character cards from September and Company in our morning basket, and I'll link those in the description below, because those have been really helpful to get us talking through behaviors and social skills, life skills, common courtesies that we can extend to others. And then once we read through the card, we sometimes sometimes role play if that's an appropriate way to practice. And my girls have really enjoyed that. And then when we are about to enter into a social situation, I can remind them, hey, remember what our card said that we talked about in our morning basket this morning? So when you see this person, I want you to do so and so, or I want you to look at them in their eyes when they ask you a question. Make sure you answer with full words. Don't just nod your head. So being intentional with teaching our kids these skills is important, but I think that it's important across the board for public schoolers and homeschoolers. But as a homeschool mom, be encouraged that you don't have to just send your kid away to school and hope that they learn all the proper ways to socialize. You can take charge of that in your own home and teach them how to socialize in a way that is mature and respectful and a positive contribution to society. That's all I have to say on the subject. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that it helped you to maybe shed some worry if this is something that is hanging over you, or you're not sure how to respond to people that ask this question, or it's something that's keeping you from jumping into homeschooling. I hope that this gives you the confidence that it really is a non-issue for most homeschooling families. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more homeschool content and conversations, and I will see you guys next time.